This is the Miami Dolphins instant reaction for the 2022 NFL season. This is for Game 3 of the 22 season versus the Buffalo Bills. The Miami Dolphins would come away with a 21-19, a thrilling 21-19 victory over the Buffalo Bills at home. The Dolphins were definitely in a really complicated predicament in certain parts of this game, but nonetheless would prove to have the grit, would prove to have the necessary wit towards the end of the game to come away with a victory. Let's go over the stats. Tua Tagovailoa, who had a fairly modest game, would go 13 out of 18, throwing for 186 yards, average yards per pass at 10.3, throwing a touchdown, getting sacked once for 7 yards, finishing with a QBR of 78.9, while finishing with an overall passer rating of 123.8. For the rushing attack, it seems to be a trend with the Miami Dolphins. They have yet to be able to pull off a game in which they would eclipse 100 yards rushing. Miami Dolphins would be led by Chase Edmonds, who would go 6 carries for 21 yards. However, Chase Edmonds would finish with 2 touchdown runs. Raheem Mostert would also pitch in, going 8 carries for 11 yards. And then we also had rushes by Jalen Waddle, who'd go for 9 yards, and Alec Ingold on an attempted rush, who would not gain any. For the receiving attack, the Miami Dolphins would be led by Jalen Waddle, who would haul down 4 receptions, going for 102 yards, average finishing at 25.5 yards, going for a long of 45 yards. He would end the day with 6 targets. Tyreek Hill had definitely a lower than expected production game, finishing only with 2 receptions for 33 yards, averaging 16.5 yards per catch with a long of 22 yards. He would get 4 targets total. Besides that, we also had River Craycraft catching a touchdown pass for the second straight game, and it was his only catch. He had an 11-yard touchdown catch off of 1 target. Miami would not commit any offensive turnovers. However, Melvin Ingram would come away with a fumble recovery that happened off of a strip sack in the second quarter. Defensively, the Miami Dolphins were led by Jerome Baker, totaling 13 tackles, 9 of them solo, while also pitching in half a sack and 1 tackle for loss, along with the pass defense. Javon Holland would come down with 10 total tackles, 9 of them solo, and coming away with a sack and a half, along with 2 pass defense and 1 quarterback hit. Overall, the Miami Dolphins had a pretty well-rounded defensive effort when it comes to crunch time. Despite having allowed the amount of yards that they allowed, the Dolphins would have a stalwart defensive performance, albeit not in terms of statistical measures or measurables. The Dolphins would allow a total of 497 yards on offense, along with having to play 90 total plays, which ended up being 40 minutes and 40 seconds of possession time that the Bills had, that the Dolphins defense had to account for. Overall, as we said, the Buffalo Bills would finish with 497 yards offense, and the Dolphins only were able to get 212 total yards. As we said, the Buffalo Bills would be the only team to turn over the ball in this game, And another interesting stat is that the Buffalo Bills would end the game with 31 first downs compared to the measly 15 first downs achieved by the Miami Dolphins. Let's talk about the Bills' statistical measurables. Josh Allen would get a career high of pass completions, going 42 out of 63, going for 400 yards, averaging 6.3 yards per pass, throwing 2 touchdowns, getting sacked 4 times. I don't remember the last time that Josh Allen got sacked 4 times against the Fins, losing a total of 18 yards. He would finish the day with a quarterback rating of 60.4 and a passer rating of 94.7. Josh Allen would also lead his team in rushing, going 8 carries for 47 yards, amounting to a 5.9 yards per attempt average, with a long of 19 yards. Zach Moss would be a close second, going 4 carries for 46 yards, average of 11.5 yards per carry, but most of those coming on a 43-yard run. When it comes to the Buffalo Bills receiving core, they were led by Devin Singletary, the running back, who would finish the day with 9 receptions and 78 yards, with an 8.7 yards per catch average, scoring a touchdown, getting a long of 22. But this is the crazy part. He had 11 total targets, tied only with Stephon Diggs. Isaiah McKenzie would finish with 7 receptions for 76 yards, going for a 10.9 average, scoring a touchdown, and getting 9 total targets. As we said, Stephon Diggs would finish the day with 11 targets, tied with Devin Singletary. He would receive the ball 7 times, going for 74 yards, finishing the day with an average of 10.6 and a long of 28 yards. However, Stephon Diggs, who, in my mind, after Josh Allen, is the most explosive weapon for the Buffalo Bills team, would be, for the most part, disappearing or just simply not making the impact you would have expected. The Buffalo Bills had a total of 4 fumbles, but would only lose 1. But that one would end up in a 2-yard touchdown run by Chase Edmonds. Defensively, the Buffalo Bills would be led by Teron Johnson, going for 9 total tackles, 3 of them solo. And then right behind him, we had Jaquan Johnson and Tremaine Edmonds going 5 total tackles each. But let's talk a little bit about this game as a whole. First of all, the game started looking like it was going to be a shootout. We would see the Dolphins and Bills go back and forth scoring touchdowns. And then towards the end of the first half, the Buffalo Bills were getting ready to set up for what was supposed to be a spike. However, that play would culminate in a bobbled snap, and then it turned into this makeshift fake spike, which Xavier Howard almost intercepted and took it to the house. The one thing that to me was insane about this game too is that there were 7 potential interceptions by the Miami Dolphins defense. What's crazy to me is that how we did not catch one of those interceptions. I would say 3 of those were surefire, you should have caught it interceptions. Nonetheless, this game, as I stated in the last podcast segment, this game is just another showing of how this Miami Dolphins team, I believe, has turned the corner into what is going to be an exciting 2022 season, which also happens to be the 50th anniversary of the 1972 undefeated season. Now, I am not in any way saying that the Dolphins are going to go undefeated this season, but after we play tonight, which tonight the Dolphins are going to be playing against the Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati, if we were to win tonight, that would take us to 4-0, which would be the first time in a very long time, let me tell you, that the Miami Dolphins would have started a season the way they would have started this one. A couple other notes about the game as well. There was a couple moments in there that was, I would say, a little bit scary. Tua Tagovailoa would go for a quarterback sneak in the first quarter and would come out gingerly after he was literally on the very bottom of the pile. However, it was later in which Tua Tagovailoa would run to his left and throw a pass that would gain a first down on a third down play, but he would get pushed into the ground by Matt Milano, linebacker Matt Milano for the Buffalo Bills. Whether or not the play was dirty, I don't think it was really dirty. I don't think there was any malicious intent by the Buffalo Bills linebacker. And this coming from a Dolphins fan. But then Tua would then come up, and as he come up, would stumble as he was jogging towards the huddle. And initially, at first glance, I was automatically thinking he hit his head. The only other possibility would have been that he got up too fast. And, sometimes you get up really fast and your blood would rush from your head all the way down or vice versa. But nonetheless, it was not looking good. Teddy Bridgewater would actually come in for 3 plays and essentially would go 0 for 2, getting sacked one of those, finishing with a QBR of 4.0 and a passer rating of 39.6. In other words, a terrible showing. I think a part of it, too, is just that Teddy Bridgewater, not planning to start, not planning to play, really, simply got thrown into the fire, and let me tell you, the fire burned. Nonetheless, as it stands currently, Tua Tagovailoa is expected to start tonight, in which the Dolphins have a chance to cement their place in the league as a perennial contender for this year, and one would say even beyond this year, because given all the things that we've seen, given all the elements of the new coaching staff, the new players that have come on, some of the draft picks have been amazing. River Craycraft is quietly becoming a solid player. The pivotal play of this game was, in fact, the very last drive for the Buffalo Bills in what would inevitably cement the victory for the Miami Dolphins. But just before that, let's talk about what at first glance I thought was the winning play. Josh Allen is at the Dolphins' 2-yard line, and it is 4th and goal. Somehow, some way, this Miami Dolphins defense, despite all the yards that they allowed, did not allow a single point on defense in this fourth quarter. Josh Allen on 4th and goal would roll to his right and would throw a weak pass that harmlessly fell against the turf and would give the Miami Dolphins the ball at their own 2-yard line. However, this is where I thought we had won the game, and then I realized there's still a minute and a half or so left on the clock, and the Dolphins have to get a first down in order to truly cement this game. Well, first play of that drive, short run to the left, stuffed. And what used to be, I believe it was on the 2 or the 4-yard line, now was like at literally the 1-yard line, if not closer. Next play, Tua tries a quarterback sneak. And if he was lucky, he got back to the line of scrimmage. I think they ended up spotting the ball a few inches backwards. 3rd and I believe 12 from your own 1-inch line. Tua's in the gun, drops back, looks to his right because Von Miller was coming, and he was coming like a Mack truck. And he has to harmlessly throw this ball in a way, in a weird angle that would just fall at the feet of his receiver, which the pass itself was a little dangerous too, because you're looking at it possibly getting picked, and then now you're down 4 points. Well, in the ensuing play, they literally only have about 9 to 10 yards but really it's more like 9 yards to punt the ball. The snap comes in. Morstead receives this punt, and despite having a solid game, Morstead would, in fact, in what is now known as the infamous butt punt, would, in fact, punt the ball straight into Trent Sherfield's gluteus maximus. The ball would ricochet off of those buns and would literally fall out of bounds, causing a safety and giving 2 points to the Bills and possession. However, the possession still determined. However, the possession was still to be determined by the ensuing free kick, in which Morstead would boom it 75 yards, causing the Bills to start deep from their own territory without any timeouts at their disposal. The Bills will come on their drive and eventually find themselves with one last play to get some yardage in order to try a long field goal. At the very last play, Josh Allen would drop back, and he would find Isaiah McKenzie, who would be crossing to the middle of the field. However, could not get out of bounds. And as the seconds ticked slowly, eternally slow for Dolphins fans, and I would say probably feverishly quick for Bills fans, all we could do was hope that Josh Allen would not have enough time to spike the ball, set the team and spike the ball. And that is exactly what happened. And that's where we are. The Miami Dolphins are 3-0. Overall, I'm looking forward to seeing what the Dolphins are going to do tonight against the Bengals. Unfortunately, I won't be able to watch. And why would that be? Well, one of the things that I've always wanted to do is an opportunity to sing the national anthem at a Florida Panthers game. And it just so happens that tonight, the Florida Panthers are going to be opening their home preseason against the Carolina Hurricanes. And yours truly will be singing the Star-Spangled Banner. I got to say, I'm excited to take not only the opportunity to see behind the scenes for the Florida Panthers and their production and their team and their players, but I'm excited to take my son and my wife to watch this game, as it would be my son's first game. And I got to say, from the times that him and I would try to watch games, whether it be at home, watching Dolphins games, or even Panthers games, he's got the sports bug in him, just like I did at a very young age. So I'm excited to see his reaction tonight. This has been a brief instant reaction for the Miami Dolphins 2022 NFL season from Game 3 versus the Buffalo Bills. We look forward towards tonight against the Cincinnati Bengals, who are currently going into the game 1-3 and trying to avoid going 1-4, remembering that they were in the Super Bowl and they were the runners-up this past year. We'll see what happens tonight. I will be watching, or at least attempting to, from my phone, as I enjoy an home opening preseason hockey game of the Florida Panthers versus the Carolina Hurricanes. We'll see you soon for the next segment of Miami Dolphins instant reaction of the 2022 NFL season. I'm John Acosta, and this is the Groove and Grit Show.